Hello guys, welcome back to another exciting series of career advice. So today we are going to learn about SAP FICA architecture. So in our earlier class we learned the FICA basics, and this is in continuation of our previous class where we learn SAP FICA architecture, why it is needed, its integration resources, and there are some other topics like ledger, subledger, e-commerce, billing, etc. and etc. So I hope you all will like this class, like our other classes, and we are getting a lot of emails from you guys asking a lot of questions. So keep doing that. And before we start, please do like, subscribe, share, and comment in our chat. Thank you. Let's start.
Okay, so recording it started. So I'm trying to explain, we discuss about the generation, transmission, distribution, and the retail segments. So when SAP ISU developed, the SAP ISU developed mostly for the retail segments, right? So when we discuss about the retail segment, always it brings about SAP ISU CCS. Now SAP ISU stands for SAP Industrial Specific Solution for Utilities, whereas CCS stands for Customer Care Services, right? Now, this customer care services includes other modules, like as I mentioned, it's a solution, so it holds other modules as well, like the marketing and sales. The marketing and sales is kind of not part of SAP ISU, but it includes inside SAP ISU, because to promote our products. Now, when I say product means it's like for electricity, it's rate categories. For telecom, yeah, it's also rate categories from the SAP perspective. So I'm trying to explain that all these modules like installation services, it's a part of plant maintenance, but it's also part of SAP ISU. And the work management is derived from plant maintenance. Okay. Similarly, metering and device management, it is actually some part of metal management, some part of PM, okay? And it creates the meter device management. And there are new features added to that, particularly for the SAP ISU, that's how it is called device management. Similarly, for the we have two kind of billing in the segments. One is static billing and the other one is dynamic billing. Now, the difference between static billing and dynamic billing is that the static billing does not change with time. I can say that, like, let's consider you brought one pen with ₹5. Now, you need to sell that pen again, and you always put a profit of ₹1 on top of ₹5. So as your brought price or your buy price is constant, that means your sell price with profit will be constant. That is called the static. Whereas in dynamic, with time, the prices will be changed. Example, let's consider the energy charges in last 30 minutes and the energy charges now. So the energy charges get changed. Why it get changed? Because there is a concept called energy bidding. So every 15 minutes, there is an energy bidding happening. So there would be people come into the energy bidding market. They put their amounts there, like per unit ₹3. Okay. But somebody will come say per unit 250. So there are requirement from the distribution units. So they will call that prices. Call means they will buy that energies. Okay. And from the bidding market, they call that for 15 minutes, it would be 250. Probably in the next 30 minutes, the energy prices will increase 330. Now, why it happens? Because we can't store the energy. And there are production units that generate the energy every time. Now, when they generate the energy, they inject that energy into the transmission network, right? So when they generate the energy, they need to find some buyers. So they put their bidding prices there, right? So that's how the energy market is always changing. It's dynamic in nature. So mostly in the retail segment, you can feel that But these days, there are new concept called RTP, real-time pricings are introduced, where you can find the energy charges is changing every 30 minutes or every 15 minutes. So in that case, you can just feel that the energy charges are dynamic in nature. That's how in SAP ISU, we have two segments. One is billing, other one is invoicing. You can see billing and invoicing. Billing is dealing with the current charges. Okay, current monthly charges, what is happening, what need to be calculated. Whereas invoicing is mostly linked to the arrears, the taxes, all those stuff. When they included them, that is called invoicing. But now the question arises, if there will be any HD bill happening, which is static in nature, that may be a maintenance charges or a device charge, how that would be included. So that will be included into the invoice, and this bill and this service billing, both will be included into a single invoice. Now that invoice is integrated to the contract account. Now, when you talk about the contract account or financing, it always needs some open items to fill up. So these open items will come from the invoicing. Okay, now that open item, against of that open item, the contract account receivable or payable, they collect the money to close that item, right? So now this customer care people or this CS people, they always get queries related to this invoicing and the payments. So payment and invoicing is the most, what we call the front end part for the customer. Okay, so people mostly come to the service desks or the payment desk to pay their amount, and they ask the queries related to their payments. So that link to the your CS customer services. But all these modules, whether it would be core modules or it would be the ISU modules, once we say that it is part of ISU, that means we need to take care of all the modules. I'm just trying to explain that in some projects, you can find other modules as well, right? Like whenever there will be any external modules introduced into these solutions, we integrate through a module called SAP PI or PO. SAP PI means process integration. Again, that is also obsoleted in 2022. And instead of PI, they introduced PO, process orchestration. Now, SAP is telling that they will support till 25 for PI solutions, but you need to move from PI to PO, right? Similarly, for invoicing and for contract accounting, particularly for the contract accounting, they are saying that mostly where there is a base solution as FICO, move that FICO with FICO S/4HANA solution. Okay, they introduce some certifications programs and also the notes to move the FICO to FICO HANA. But for FICO, there are no changes till now. Okay. Now, if we move further and we can see all those modules and all these what we call utilities, how they are integrated, you can see these utilities are called the sectors. So these sectors are there. So, and these sectors are integrated, all these modules through different kind of customers. Now here, whatever the customers we are telling, we call them business partners. And the customer mostly of these types, where they may be a residential customer, they may be a non-residential customer, they may be sales customer, service customer, prospect, owner, bill recipient, or installer. Okay, so when we discuss about the business partner, how many types of business partner can be created, we'll discuss there in details. But mostly it is residential, non-residential customer, sales customer, service customer, prospect, owner, and bill recipient. Now, residential customer who is currently staying at his home, non-residential who is not staying at his home, he is probably somewhere else. Sales customer who is getting the, like they are vendors, so they are getting
Rented
the,
house.
no, not rented house. They are vendors, like they sell the stuff to other people. Okay. Service customers
So
who is providing these services. perspective, they just inquiry for become a customer, but they are still not a customer. They are just inquiring for the services. Owner, uh, again, owner is a different concept again. So for residential customers, there are two type of customers. One is owner, one is tenant. So in that we have a owner concept, and bill recipient who is getting the bill. Okay, now bill recipient and the customer may be different. Like someone's father is paying the electricity bill for his daughter or son who is staying in a different address. So they are also a customer bill recipient and the installers. Okay, so these we'll discuss in details when we create the master data in system, and in system we'll create all those stuff and different relationships also with the customer. Now, here you can see there are two major things which is not there in our previous diagram. It is there. One is information system. Now, when we say the information system in computer science, we call MIS system, management information system, but in SAP, mostly we call them reporting system. So reports can be generated in 3-4 ways. So if the reports are small, we can generate through the ABAP reports, very small reports, or we can generate any queries. So there are SQBI concepts. So through that, you can connect 5 to 10 tables and generate the reports. But if the tables are more than 5 to 20, you can go for the ABAP reports. But based on the volume, if the volume is high, we need some external systems which need to be helpful for us. In that case, we'll go for BOBJ, business objects, or BI, business intelligence systems. So SAP BOBJ is mostly useful for MIS system. But still then, in SAP ISU, we have a integrated information system from where we can generate small reports. Okay, the second one is the workflow. Now, workflows are part of, again, ABAP. So ABAP, we have 6 kind of objects like RISEPW, we call them, starting with a report, then changes, interfaces, then workflows. So these workflows are mostly useful when there will be decision making need to be happen, and in that case we are using the workflows. Okay. Now the workflow is also hits to the customer and the modules as well, because based on the workflow, the waiting and the allow of the process will be happening. Okay, so in FICA, whenever we have to stop any event or we need to wait for a permission, in that case, we are using workflows. Okay. So if we put them into a landscape, now when we say the landscape means there are different servers. When we integrate the different servers and we put the diagram into a landscape perspective, you can see we have the SAP ISU system is the core system. That core system integrated to the CRM system through a middleware. That middleware may be PIPO. And through that middleware, the core system send all the details to the CRM system, because the CRM system gets all these queries from the end consumers through the through many modes, mostly from the internet, like via email, via queries, via chat, so they can get those things, or tele businesses like via IVR, means telephone calls. So all these information they are collecting from the CRM system. So CRM system collects all the information from the core system, which is in backend. That core system is SAP ISU system. They sends all the data. Now, if a new consumer come into picture, a new consumer coming into the system, they also come through CRM, and that will be integrated to the ISU system and they become sync, right? So the core system is ISU system. Now this ISU system also send the data to SAP BW system, all the core data for the reporting. And those reports useful for BW as well as for the end customer and for the what we call the decision makers, right? and that reports integrated to the CRM system through the middleware, right? So the CRM system, we call them front end. The middleware SAP PIPO is the integration system, and they integrated to the SAP ISU system, and they integrate with the BW system as well. So this BW system is analytics, backend is ISU, front end is CRM, and the external systems are integrated through different modes. Like these days, there are many modes. Like people are integrated through the social media, like WhatsApp. They're integrating to the CRM system. So the objective is to get the queries from any of the media and solve the queries, send back them the satisfying result by getting the results from the core system, which is ISU, and BW system, which is for reporting. So here, if we create a landscape for this, mostly there is a server for ISU, there is a middleware server, there is a CRM server, there is a BW server. So you can see there are 4 servers at least required to create this, okay? And again, external systems are integrated to the CRM systems. So 4 servers for each of the segments, like for development, for quality, and for pre-prod or production. So there would be 12 servers. Okay. So if we go into in details in the data segment, how it looks in my SAP, so you can see how the data transfer happening. So mostly start with the core system. The core system is SAP ISU. You can see my SAP utility system. That utility system is integrated with the CRM. So they communicate both ways. As I mentioned, the business partner can be created in CRM and sync with the ISU system. Now, if it is not sync, the operations will be not happening smoothly because it will not recognize the instructions coming from the CRM. Okay. Now that also integrated to BW system, and BW system integrated to the CRM for the reports. Okay. Now it's a queue format. So people who are working in reporting, there would be a different data cubes where we extract the data if there's high amount of data is required. And we have also My Finance, which is FICO or ECC models, which are integrated to the BW system. It extract the data and understand the analytics and take the decisions, right? So this is the data flow in the systems or in the landscape. Okay, so now this is a very simple customer services stuff where you can see how the SD billing is integrated to the FICA. So you can see the FICA is here in documentation segment, okay? But the real process start from the customer services. They get some request from the customer that they need some maintenance at a particular point. So based on that query, they did a inquiry. To do the inquiry, what they do, they send somebody to the field. To send somebody to the field, they have to generate a service request. Okay. Now that person went to the field and they observed that the meter is not correct. The meter need to be replaced or something. So based on his visit, he will provide a quotation. Okay. Now that quotation need to be sent to the customer. Okay. Look, if we do the maintenance, it will be charged 300 rupees or something. So the customer need to give a confirmation. Yes, go ahead. Now, once he will give the go ahead, so we generate the order. Now that quotation linked to the order and it will create a work order for this person. Now, once the work order is generated, that person need to visit and he will update the device. Okay, he will replace or maintain the device. And once he'll maintain those stuff, based on the work order, will generate a billing installation services. Now this billing installation services not based on the consumption, not on the meter. So it is based on the maintenance. So that will be generated based on the ST invoices. Now ST will not ST will not a dynamic billing process. It's a static billing process. So we know this is a service of meter replacement. For that, the charges would be this, and based on that, will generate a bill. And that bill or that invoice need to be integrated to the final ISU invoice, and that invoice will be sent to the customer as a document. And based on the document, the customer need to pay. That's how the ST is integrated to the FICA, and we are collecting the money through FIC. Okay, now as we discuss, this is the announcement of that. The SD sales is happening, and all these components finally come to the SAP ISU invoicing, and finally we do the document generation for the customer, and you need to pay. Okay. So account receivable and payable happening based on your documents. We'll go for FICA. Now, why we need FICA? That we need to first discuss. Till now, we understand the basic of SAP ISU, the modules, and why we want FICA. So FICA is a very new concept in SAP ISU. New means like 20 years old, but SAP, which is already exists for last more than how many years? It started in 72, 73, so more than 50 years, but FICA is not introduced till 98, 99. Now, why that happened and why the FICA is required? So when the SAP is introduced, it introduced to manage the finances of a companies, not the individuals. But with time, there is a new concept arises in the market that is called insurance. Now, when insurance come into picture, so there is a called SAP insurance as well. So when insurance come into picture, there are three major issues come into the SAP. So the first one is the insurance solution for each of the individuals are different. Like somebody is taking the insurance at the age of 25, somebody is taking at the age of 32, somebody is taking the insurance for 20 years, somebody is taking for 30 years. Somebody taking the maturity as 5 lakhs, somebody will taking as 7 lakhs. So that means each individual has different requirements. And if you are selling them same products, everybody, that will not helpful to the company, because the company will lose the money, because the insurance concept is all based on the interest calculation. So the SAP introduced a new concept called contract accounting instead of controlling. The contract accounting, which is integrated to the finance, and it would be based on the individuals. So they introduce FICA. That means instead of putting the policies for whole companies, they create the policies for the individuals. Individuals as such, each of the consumer, each of the customers, so they put. But to maintain the whole of this information, they need a different kind of ledger maintenance. Okay, so to maintain all this information, they introduce a concept called sub-ledger. Okay, now you know the ledger is nothing, it's a book only where we enter all the calculations. Okay, so in India, we have two kind of ledger maintenance. We have single entry and double entry. So mostly in Europe or in US, they maintain the double entry, but in some cases in India, particularly Marwadis, they maintain a single entry ledgers. So ledgers are nothing, they are the books, and in the books, they maintain whatever the incoming and outgoing happening. Incoming means whatever the money is coming means credited, whatever the money is going is debited. Okay, so the credit and debit is maintained in a general ledger, but that general ledger is based on the company. Now that company is maintaining the general ledger. So in that general ledger, again, we introduce another sub ledger which is based on the customer account. Okay, sub-ledger or subsidiary ledgers. So that sub-ledger is integrated to the general ledger at the end, and it will give the final output. Now, the general ledger concept is already there in FICO. So you can see it is mentioned as SAP R3. So SAP R3 linked to the general ledger, and which is the basic of that. And that again divided into sub-ledgers, which is holding the individual transactions. Okay, so you can see if you go for any definition for the contract account receivable and payable, you can find this. The contract account receivable and payable components is a sub-ledger developed for industries with a large customer base and a corresponding high volume of document to post, because we are posting the details at the individual level. Okay, so this includes insurance companies, utility companies, telecommunication company, public sector companies, all these companies. So these days there is a concept going on called subscription-based services. Have you heard about Salesforce? Anybody? So Salesforce is the company which first introduced the subscription-based billing, right? Now, to counter that, SAP also introduced the subscription-based billing, which comes under BREEAM, SAP Billing Renovation, Billing Revenue Innovation System. Okay, so BREEAM, Innovation Management System. So now that BREEAM is also a subscription-based management where these sub-ledgers again come into the subsidiary ledgers. Means within sub-ledger also we have sub-ledgers which is based on the time. So how many duration they subscribe? Like if you watch television, let it be you are watching Star Plus for 30 minutes and you are watching then the National Geographic for 30 minutes. So, but you are paying a package. At the end of the month, you are paying, let it be 200 rupees. Now that's not correct. You should pay based on your subscription, how much time you are watching your channel based on that. Now that subscription-based concept again introducing these sub-ledgers, and that sub-ledgers again creates more subsidiary ledgers. So FICA, which is introduced for many regions, mostly for the insurance companies, and they introduce a new concept called sub-ledger. The sub-ledger which introduced the customer account balance maintenance at the individual level, and they finally integrate that to the general ledger. So now how we maintain a sub-ledger? A large number of individual accounts with a common characteristics can be grouped together in a separate ledger called subsidiary ledger. Now, common characteristics means let it be everybody are energy consumers. So we can put them into a common characteristic sub-ledgers. Okay. Similarly, the primary ledger, which contains all of the balance sheet and income statement account, is called a general ledger. So now that sub-ledger need a general ledger to be established. Okay. Otherwise, that sub-ledger will not work. That means this general ledger is coming from controlling. That needs a company code. So company code is linked to a general ledger. And through that, we are doing the summarization and controlling the account. Okay. So for general ledger, we need a company code. For sub-ledger, we need a contract account. And for controlling, we need the detailed summarization of the sub-ledgers.